Hey everybody, Jed Demlow with Jed Demlow Productions back with you to do a tutorial on the hard to miss mix today. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. If you're a Studio One fan like I am, you can ask specific questions about how I'm using Studio One. If there's any portion that you see that I skipped over too quickly or you're not quite absorbing, leave those comments and questions for me, and I'll address those and get back with you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and let's go ahead and get right into the mix. Okay, hey everybody, welcome back. Jed with Jed Demlow Productions doing the mix tutorial on hard to miss. So let's just go ahead and talk about, how I approach a mix in Studio One first. You can see I've got all my tracks pretty much colored the way that I like them, and I would do that as you're creating stuff. You can see that my drums are all blue, the bass is brown, the guitars are all red, the keys are green, and weird stuff like dobro or steel guitar, stuff like that. I always make light blue, so I know what they are. Acoustic guitars are like a lighter red, almost a pink. And then, it's probably cool to color your buses the same way so that you can see what those are quickly too. One of the other things I like to do is I always start off with my kick up here at the very top, and then I'll have the bass right underneath it so I can solo the kick and the bass together very quickly and hear what they sound like. And then just go snare, hat, toms, cymbals, all that stuff from there. So that's kind of a little bit on that. And then let's just go in, and you can see that I use a soft tube console for my main EQ. And so I just love the way it works, and I love the way it sounds. It's an SSL 4000 emulation. So I will use that. I'll put that on every channel, which helps me get the sound that I'm after. But as I'm tracking and kind of making stuff as I go, I'll use like the Pro EQ that's in Studio One a lot. Like you can see on this kick right here, for instance, I rolled the high end off of that to get that, muted kick sound. If we listen to it with the high end in, it's a totally different sound. So I just used, a filter and went ahead and rolled that down to where I wanted it to get that sound. So you can do things like that along the way. Let's go ahead and... So what I would do probably just to kind of get started, I'd start listening to my kick, see what that sounded like, get that the way that I like the way it sounds. I can go into here in the console, and I can do additional EQ if I want. Like maybe I want to pull some of that low end out. It shows you right where it's happening. But I kind of like the way it's sounding right now, so I'll just leave it like that. And one of the things that I might want to do right up front is to have my bass and my kick in there together. Okay. Now a lot of times I'll listen to this in mono so that I can really get an idea of what it would sound like, in a cell phone or on a laptop or whatever. Now, as I'm listening to this, I want to make sure that the kick drum and the bass are, really balanced well. So you want to hear just about the same of both as you're checking this. You don't want your bass to be big like this. That's exaggerated, but you don't want to hear a ton of bass and just a little bit of the kick. And you don't want to, hear tons of kick and only a little bit of bass. You want them to sit there together, you know, and listen to it in the entire mix. See how it, as you're mixing it in there, see how it feels. Now, what I did here with the bass is I took the bass DI and I doubled it. So, and the way to do that in Studio One is just to go up here to your bass, and if you go to track, you can hit duplicate complete. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and do it so you can see how it gave me another track there. So then I went to that track and I put this little radiator plug-in on it from Sound Toys, which I really like a lot, and I cranked up the heat on it. Yeah, cranked up the gain. And if I turn this up, you'll be able to hear it. You can really hear that, you know, saturation in there. Turn it down. But I want that saturation. I cranked it on purpose, you know, just so I can have it in there. So when it's mixed in with the other bass, it's got a real nice full sound. And then when we have that kick in there, works out nice. So that's something you can do on your mix a lot of times. Take your DI bass or just your bass track, make a complete duplicate of it, and then take the track that you have the duplicate of, okay, and you can add a little saturation. It might be a Sans amp. It might be whatever it is that you have. But just this is what I like to use on it because it sounds really great. And then just mix that in a little bit to taste. You know, it doesn't take a ton of it because that would be too much. And you'd really hear that graininess. But when it's just in there, it fattens that bass up. Okay. So from the bass there, I probably would start listening, you know, to my snare, my hi-hat. I like to get drums going first, and I have a bus for them over here. And you should bus your drums, okay? If you're brand new to this, you know, just you can highlight the channels that you want to make a bus of. So I'll go from the kick, and I'll go all the way down here to the crashes for now. And if you right-click on that, you can say Add Bus for selected channels. Okay. When you do that, it'll open up a brand new bus. Okay. And then you can name that whatever you want. So I had done that, and then I have my drums bus here. Now I have control over all of my drums here just on one channel. So if I just want to hear just the drums, solo those. I'll go up here to the console and I'll show you a little trick that I picked up from Warren Hewart. And that is, a lot of times you get this real haze going on right around 400 hertz. So I like to dip that out just a tiny bit. Now I on this mix I just dipped it out just a little bit. That's about all it took, but you can hear that. Hear where that haze is. Right about 400. Just bring that out. And it cleans those drums up real nice. So that's something you can try. Try it on your drum bus, or maybe just try it on your snare sometimes. But I kind of like it on the drum bus because sometimes doing it all together just really makes a nice little clarity to the drum track. Okay, so we got kick, bass, all the drums kind of happening. We can go to the snare. Let's just look at the verse snare here. I'll solo that. You can hear it. And you can see how I took some of the high end off of that. Let's take a listen to that. Turn it up a little. And leave you can hear when I take that high cut filter off, that snare is really bright. So what I did was I applied an EQ, and just use the high cut filter here to dial some of that high end off. And then that sounds real nice. It kind of controls that transient. You don't want too many of those high end transients popping out in your song. Okay, because that stuff will really build up. So that I did just along the way as I was tracking. Let's take a listen to this. See what I did. Same thing. I dialed back the high end. Hear how bright that gets. It's a little more subtle on this. Okay, and I also added a reverb on this clap. So and I just called this drum verb. And what I did was I set up a effects bus down here. I like to keep all this stuff down here to the right by the main, where I can keep track of them all. So if you're new and you don't know how to set up a effects bus on Studio One, you'll always get this main bus when you very first start. So you can just go down here anywhere, and if you highlight that and right click, you'll get an add effects channel. Okay, so if you do that, that'll pop right up, and you can name it like delay, verb, chorus, whatever it is that you're going to do. Okay, so I made one of those. I called it drum verb, and I just stuck the room reverb on it that comes with Studio One. And this really is a nice preset, just the way it comes up. It's great on drums and all kinds of stuff that you can use it on. And I like it. Just adjust this, however you need it. You can adjust the length here. You can hear how long that got. I took a little bit of that drum verb and put it on the clap. And the way that you can do that, okay, you got these little sends here, the little plus button. Okay, here, this is newbie stuff, but it's important, to know this stuff. So if you click on the little plus, you can go down here to the drum verb, which is what I set up. Okay, you click on that, and this little box comes up here, and then you can adjust the amount. You can have a whole bunch, or you can dial it back so it sounds just like you want. Okay, so that's a lot of the drum kind of stuff. Here, hats, the hi-hats. You can see where I rolled off the high end again on the hi-hats. There we go. Turn it up so we can hear it. Now, if I turn that off, you can hear how it took that edge off of the hi-hat up here. And I'm going, just a little bit on that, right around 5K, and then just a slope. Okay, it looks like it's a 12 dB octave, but just a kind of a more of a gentle, slope here on that. I'm not going crazy on it, dialing back, like that, but just enough so it takes that edge off of the hi-hats, because again, those hi-hats are going to build up with your crashes, with your snare, with your claps, all that stuff. You'll end up with way too much high end on your mix, and then that when you crank it, that it's hard to listen to. So you want to watch that. Don't have too much high end in your mix as you're going, and I like to do this as I go. As I'm producing, I'll throw these EQs on and do this stuff. Just, from experience, I know that is going to be too much high end at the end when I finish up. When you start adding compression and all that kind of stuff, it really builds up. Let's take a look at the guitars. I really like this CLA 3A on guitars. It sounds great. Let's find something here. So we got these guitar riffs here. This is the money riff at the intro, and this is the it's made by Waves, CLA 3A. And if you go to the electric guitar preset. It's really good. So you can start there and then just tweak it the way that you need it. I wanted to get anywhere from, you know, 1 to 3 dB of gain reduction if it started to get kind of loud, but this was pretty well contained the way I played it. So you might try that. Try the CLA 3A on guitars. I think you'll love it. And again, here I used, you know, reverb. I set up an instrument reverb, an effects channel right here, and just put the room reverb on again. Set that the way I wanted it, and then I can add just a little bit of that to my guitars, and that's what I've done here. Okay, so all three of these guitars have the CLA 3A on them. One of my favorite plugins is this Black Hole plugin by Eventide, the H9, and this thing sounds great on guitars. You might want to check this out. I've got it on sync, so it automatically syncs to the tempo of your song, which is 74 beats per minute on this. And you can crank up the mix. You know, you can have a whole bunch of it, or you could, you know, just maybe have a little bit. But I really wanted to hear it ring on this. So this plugin's relatively pricey. I think it's like $179. So, but I use it a lot on guitars where I want an atmospheric, you know, type of feel. You can see I used it on this too. This other guitar track here. Same thing. Black Hole, check it out. You'll love it. Okay, let's talk about the lead. A lot of times on the lead break, I will use the Echo Boy on it. Echo Boy from Sound Toys, and I like the quarter note delay on legato leads. You know, if it's a lead break that's, you know, it's not a fast lead break. And you can use the feedback here to adjust how much feedback you're going to get. You can use the mix knob here to how much of the delay you're going to hear. The low cut cuts out the bottom end, so the delays that you hear are not as they don't have as much of the muddiness in them. So you can really make it so it cuts out the low. And here, let's leave it in. You can hear how much thicker that was compared to this. See, it's almost telephone-ish, that telephone sound. So anyway, check out the Sound Toys Echo Boy on lead guitar parts. Just love it. Okay. And I have a bus for my guitars. And you can see here on the guitar track, I decided to really cut out a lot of the low end on the guitars, and then I boosted the high end. That's just what sounded good. Okay. So if I here we go. You can really hear it cutting that out. There, I've left some of it in there. But that, by doing that, I have left a lot of room for the bass. I put all of the keys on a bus, so we can hear all that stuff. And it gives you a lot of control. You know, you can go and hear all your keys and guitars. okay, or if I just want to hear drums and keys. Always use buses. If you're not bussing your instruments, you should be doing that. Make sure you start doing it right away because it's going to give you a ton more control. Again, to set up a bus, just go over here, and it seems a little weird when you don't have any of these in here already, but if you right click around this main channel here, is I like to do the add bus for selected channels. That'll save you a lot of time, give you a lot more control. So that is a lot of how I approach, starting the mix and getting going on the mix. And then, a lot of times I might just like loop a chorus. Okay. Studio One users here, if you don't know how to set the loop, okay, you just go up here to the top and you can click with your little mouse and you can set the loop, like if you want it from the verse all the way to the turn, or however, if you just want it from the chorus to the turn, go out to here, whatever it may be. Okay, and then turn your loop on. Then you can just hear that portion of the mix over and over again, and I like to do that. It really helps me zone in on stuff, to kind of get the groove going. Maybe I wanted to get the clap and the snare volume, just right. By looping each section, you can listen to it over and over again. Maybe I think those hi-hats are a little loud. This is probably a good time now to talk about panning, and panning is super important. You wanna set a sound stage, for the listener. Now a lot of times, I'll pan the kick and the vocal straight up the middle, bass straight up the middle usually, snare straight up the middle. But when you get to your guitars, and things like this first guitar right here, I have that panned off to the right. You can see like 70% to the right. By getting it out there, now see, if I was to take this and pan it dead center, that's gonna be in the way of the vocal. Okay, so when you think about this, that's where the singer's gonna be. So let's get it out of the way. I like it out here. Okay, the diamonds. Okay, the big chords probably happening in the chorus. There we go. Turn them up so we can hear them. Again, see, there they are in the middle. That's where the singer's going to be. So I want him out here. I want to get him out of the way of that middle section so that there's plenty of room. Plenty of room for that singer. The vocal is always king or queen. So make sure that you're leaving a lot of room for your vocal. Here I got power guitar here. Got that turned down in the mix. Again, if I put that in the middle, that's going to step on the vocalist. I like to get it out. So I've got that way out there. And then since I had that power guitar off to the right, I took the diamonds and put those to the left. So now I have a nice, sound stage going on. And then the lead fills. One is panned left, the other one's panned right. So what that does is it keeps things interesting for your listener. You always want to have something happening in your mix. Don't let your mix be stagnant. Let's talk about the master bus and how I did this. Of course, I've got console 1 on there just because I love the sound of the SSL 4000. And then I like to go ahead and put this mix room on from Mastering the Mix. I have a favorite preset, which is the contemporary pop one. Let's see if we go to pop and then contemporary. It will analyze your mix and tell you what it thinks, the frequencies are that need a little help, or you got too much of or too little of. And I like to put that on there and just see what it says. And sometimes I don't really like what it's done, and I'll just stick with what I got. Sometimes I'll put it on there and it might make a suggestion that I'm listening to it and go, yeah, that's pretty nice. So, you never keep the exact same thing that it gives you, but it gives you like a little starting point. You can say, well, that I kind of like the direction it's going with this, but it's a little too much. So, I can show you. I'll just go ahead and take it off here, and we'll go ahead and add it. It's not gonna do exactly. It'll probably do a little bit different actually, because I've already mixed this. But I'll go ahead and I like to put it on a chorus. Okay, I'm gonna go down to pop and contemporary, and you just let it. Let it listen to your mix. Okay, and then these little headphones are nice because it solos those frequencies. That's up so high we can hardly even hear it. Okay, but this 5K, you can hear how it cut that just a little bit. So it's basically doing about the same thing as what it did before. Okay, that frequency right there at 990, right around 1,000 hertz. Gave me a little boost on that. And this is way down. -9. So that's with it turned off. It's in. You can hear how it boosted that lower frequency just a little bit. So I like Mix Room. It gives me a nice little starting point ideas. Same thing with Bass Room. I use Bass Room for mastering the mix. This thing is great. And a lot of producers and mixers out there are using this stuff, and like, again, it's just to give you an idea and some starting points. You don't take this stuff as gospel, but it's very useful to kind of get you pointed in the right direction sometimes. It's like reference tracks. We all use reference tracks, because we want our mixes sometimes to sound very similar to other, tremendous mixes. And we try to get as close as we can to those mixes. It's the same kind of thing. There's no rules on how you do this. Just do whatever you need to do to get it so that it sounds great. It doesn't matter how you get there. Just do it. So, Bass Room is really cool. You put this on there, and let's just go ahead and do it. I'll pop it off of here. And you want to put all this stuff on before your compression, okay? Before your limiter, before your compressor. So I like to go Mix Room and then Bass Room. So if I go down here again and I go to pop, contemporary, we'll just use that one for this. Do it on a, see, and that might be sometimes it's just too much. And that's a lot. These ones down here are usually right, the 40 and 20 hertz, so that's a good idea. The 80 hertz one you have to be careful with. It wants me to do this. Sounds pretty good. see how these little boxes, if you move them, they'll line up to where it's saying that it's thinking it should be. And you need to listen to it as you go. These are tools that you can use that'll get you there pretty quickly. I used the SSL compressor, the bus compressor on this one. I just felt like that was the sound that I wanted. So it's in. I'll take it out. And you can see it's just touching it. Okay, I'm not going crazy with the on the threshold with the attack. You know, it's kind of a slow attack, and I'm just using the auto release, which usually works fantastic. A lot of times you can just leave it there, and you're good to go. That's out. So I use that bus compressor just to get glue on everything, so that I liked the way that it was sounding. The next thing that I did was I put the Ozone 8 mastering plug-in on it, and I really like this thing. It's let's just go ahead and do it. I'll show you how it works. I'll go ahead and take it off, and we'll put it back on. And I've been in several mastering houses, and they were using this plugin, along with a lot of great outboard, but they were using this too. So it's really fantastic. So if you have this, or you want to take a look at getting it, go to a course, go to a loud part of your song and hit Master Assistant, and then select, what the destination is. Is it going to go on Spotify? Well, streaming is probably the best. If you have a reference mix that you want to try to nail, the EQ and compression and so forth on that, then you can try this. Okay. And CD is pretty loud, so I really don't use that too much. I'm dealing with streaming stuff mainly now. So we'll start it and hit next. You want to have your volume turned down when it's making the dynamic adjustments, because it can get pretty loud pretty fast. So it's analyzing everything right now. And it'll give me its answer of what it thinks. Here we go. All right. So if we take a look at this, the equalizer is pretty crazy right now. It's taking a lot of low end out, a lot of mid range. Probably a lot of that. This all changed from what I had before, because we were kind of messing around with a lot of stuff here. So it's not as close as it probably would have been when I used it the first time. It added about 10 dB of gain, and it shows the modern IRC here, the mode. So you can really hear a big difference, and not just in volume and punch. It sets dynamic EQs for you to compensate for the gain that the maximizer cranked up. So check out Ozone 8 if you need to make some quick masters to give to clients, or to give to friends, or someone's interested in hearing your songs. If you're going to put it out on Spotify, if you're going to put it out there to the public, I recommend personally that you have it professionally mastered. Get somebody that does that day in, day out. They've got the best room. They've got the best speakers. They've got the best outboard gear. Usually they have great ears, and this is somebody that has never heard your song before. So when they put it up the first time in their room, they're going to be pretty honest about your mix, and what they think it really needs and what's really going on with your mix. Because after you've listened to your mix 1,000 times, you can't hear it anymore. So having a professional master your song is really, I think it's a good idea. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for me on this one. hopefully this has been some help for new people that are starting out mixing productions in Studio One. I didn't really go into detail on how to set up a track, how to control the EQs in here. If you have specific questions, make sure you leave those in the comments, and I can get down to the nitty gritty on stuff for you. Again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll be putting out a lot more content and try to cover different techniques and things as we go along and down the road. And I'll be talking to you again real soon.